So I'm spawning in now. I'll put on smoke.
Should I spawn in?
One moment. Okay, everyone can spawn in now. I have red smoke on course heading 60, and I'll be flying at 70% throttle.
So spawn point Charlie's and Foxtrot 2.
That is correct.
Yeah, the top of the Foxtrot there. I'm going to be doing a slight left bank.
Good one, I'm forming up on your right.
I see you.
Grizzly on my
Adler,
rear right
Rooster.
now.
What's that?
I'm pretty far away, just catching up.
Yeah, I'm in a right. You can cut the corner.
Do you want us to stick in the order or just form up?
Airspeed for leader is 238. 70% throttle. Should be able to catch up.
Viper, you find us yet?
Yeah, I'm actually tailing Grizzly right now. Actually, wait, no, I was supposed to be behind Goodwin.
I'll throw out blue smoke.
I could just spin around.
So flying, pretty well every maneuver that you do takes all three control surfaces. Especially flying a straight line. It seems easy in the game, but not in a tight formation. And we're going to be flying directly beside some barrage balloons. There'll be a path on the ground, and you want to keep your wingtips in the center of the balloons. So don't go above the balloons, don't go below, don't go far to the left, and don't crash into them. I'm going to start cut my throttle to 40, leave my attitude on my nose the same, and I'll slowly start to descend here as I reduce speed. You can see that in your indicator, 40%. Keep your nose just slightly above the horizon or your pipper from your gun sight, and you'll see that you'll start descending. If I go to WEP, I'll start climbing, keeping my nose the same. I don't want to go under 120 miles an hour or danger of stalling, so I'm going to drop my nose and increase my speed to 60. But what we were doing there is gliding. That's a way to go down without picking up airspeed. If we dive down, we'll get airspeed quickly. You noticed our airspeed even slowed down as we were at 40% with our nose just above the horizon. Okay, so I'm going to be turning left and going right beside the far side of the barrage balloons ahead of us. Increasing throttle to 70%. So you're going to watch the attitude of your nose, adjusting rudder, ailerons, and elevators, and try to keep your wingtip center of the balloon, staying above the dirt path beside the balloons. It's helpful to use trim. because of torque, I've got a slight rudder slight left the entire time through, because I don't have trim set.
Adler, Rooster.
Go ahead.
Some of the aircraft, you should set up your joystick with a with a roll, like before you start. Would you know about that? Like I think the German aircraft pull to the left with the engine torque. I'm not sure if all aircraft do that.
No,
So-
it's just dependent on the engine, so some will turn, some will pull left, some will pull right.
So do you recommend that we adjust that before we get up in the air? I'm not sure about the
No,
P-36.
do it in the air, because then you can have a better management of it. At least that's what I do.
If I may chime in a moment. Your trim settings will always be dependent on your current airspeed at any given moment, so you will always have to adjust your trim if you have the option in flight. You typically don't want to do it on the ground unless you're flying like a higher quality sim where it's advisable to set up a takeoff trim setting. Out.
Okay, I'm going full throttle, 100%, and I'm going to start a climb. Then we're going to be doing, when I get enough altitude, I'm going to do a split S and head back to these balloons. This time we're going to weave through each opening of the balloon, left and right, left and right, left and right, and you're going to paint the horizon with your gun sight on, and try not to deviate from going above the balloons or below those.
Good winter group. I'd just like to add on the whole trim thing. There are some aircraft that you cannot trim in battle, and you have to go into a test flight to set up their trim beforehand. This simulates setting the trim by a mechanic.
That's
Some aircraft just won't let you, period.
Like the Spitfire with its
Yep.
aileron.
Because
Yeah.
it didn't have adjustable trim tabs in reality.
Yeah, there's a lot of German aircraft that they didn't believe in trim at all.
Until really late in the war.
Well, there's a reason for that, but it's kind of complicated, so we don't have to get into it right now. But basically, they had gyroscopic auto levelers in a lot of their airplanes.
Okay, so
kept the weight level.
I'm going to invert and do a split S now. Throttle to 0 while I do it so my engine doesn't stall.
boy.
Heading back to the balloons. Cutting my throttle to 70 again. You'll find you're going to lose a lot of airspeed as you're using all three control surfaces to stay at the same altitude, weaving through the balloons. You'll also need to adjust your throttle.
Request throttle leader.
I'm at 70%.
Roger.
I'll start there. I may increase or decrease according to how my aircraft's handling. If you go too fast, you might not make the turn. If you go too slow, you might stall out. So just leave a gap between us all. We're going on the right side, cutting through the first gap between the balloons. Remember to use your rudder, all three control surfaces to get a nice, smooth, coordinated turn. Now, when we later on, when we're doing the combat section, we'll be doing quite a few defensive and offensive maneuvers where you and your wingman are going in opposite directions, creating a distance between you, a combat spread, and then returning, hopefully to sandwich the enemy in between you two to take them out. And if one of you goes high in your turn and one goes low in your turn, you might not be able to hit the enemy. So this is a good way to practice. You can come in this on your own. Just put a bot in there and he probably won't bother you. This course has no guns, so he can't shoot you. Okay, I'm going to climb and I'm in a right bank. I'm going to head down to the other end of the course. Going to be at 90% throttle. So as soon as you get through the course, bank right, start to climb. Heading 9-9, cutting my throttle to 70% at Angels 4. Increasing now at 80% in a right bank. Going up to the larger, higher set of balloons. Going to the top layer, we're going to do a coordinated turnaround, do a split S, and then go the opposite direction on the balloons on the bottom. We want to tighten up a little more. My airspeed is 225. So we're going to be doing a right turn around these balloons on the left hand side to start. When I get around, I'm going to invert, and then we're going to be going into a left-hand turn around the balloons. There's a second set of balloons halfway down on the same cable. How are we doing for time?
It is currently 8:54. Over.
Is someone able to check, see if we have any guests on the TeamSpeak?
Yeah, I can.
You can do that now.
Rain.
Hobbs, Rain, Naughty, and Teoghost.
Oh, okay, well, Naughty and Hobbs can entertain. Right bank now around the balloons. We're almost done. So I climbed a bit so I didn't crash into the end of the line. So I'm now level with the balloons. So the next balloon I get to, I'm going to do my split S. And I'm going to split S left instead of right, so I'm going to flip over the other way. I'm going to cut my throttle and bank left and dive onto the next set of balloons. Now I'm in a left-hander. Increasing throttle again to 70%. So the split S and the Immelman are your basics when it comes to when you're in a dogfight in combat. You can change direction, and in both cases you're changing speed for altitude or altitude for speed. Okay, I'm going to bank right and start to climb. So I'm following the end of the runways here, heading 255 into a climb. Want to get to Angels 5 and then we'll do a spin recovery. .95% throttle for a steep climb. I'm hitting Angels 4. So to force us into a spin, we are going to give our aircraft complete full left rudder and hold your joystick in the 2 o'clock position. That's just right of center. And when you hold that and get yourself level, you're going to pull your joystick back to the 7 o'clock position, and your aircraft will lose control. Then we're going to go through the steps, which is neutralize your joystick, keep it in the center of your. You're going to give full rudder in the opposite direction of your turn, cut your throttle, and when you get control, slowly increase your throttle and pull back on the stick. Okay, so I'm leveling out. Going full left rudder, 2 o'clock position, then pulling my joystick back. Now I'm in a spin. So I let go of my joystick, just let it naturally get to the center. Crank my rudder in the opposite direction. And wait, now it's caught, I've stopped. So I give it some throttle and slowly pull back. And I'm at Angels 3.5. So I had time yet. Climbing back up.
Oh, lordy. Okay, ooh, we're good.
Yeah, don't panic. If you do the steps, you will recover if you're over Angels 5.
Oh, I've recovered fine. It was just, wow, that's my first successful recovery.
So you remember those steps, you can do it all the time. If you're under Angels 5, bail out. Depending on your aircraft, of course. If you're in a P-40, to recover from a P-40, cut your throttle and just let go of your joystick. Do nothing else until you've recovered. It'll do it automatically. That's the only aircraft that'll do it.
I've recovered from stalls below that altitude before.
Yeah, you can.
But it's
iffy.
very hairy.
Over 5, you'll do it for sure.
I usually find above 3, you'll do it for sure.
Okay, underneath us is a ton of runways. So you're going to hit your I key. Your engine is off. I want you to land without crashing. Nice soft landings. So you're going to be gliding and using your flaps when you're slow enough. And remember, these gear take a long time to come down.
Also, do not drop them too early. They will rip off.
Going back to that torque conversation we had earlier, I can tell you every single U.S. naval aircraft past the first Hellcat pulls to the right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most Allied aircraft does. It's just the Russian aircraft that I'm aware of that is opposite. So I figure the first
And
Russian guy put the propeller on backwards.
some
User
British
joined your
planes
channel.
also do it to the left as well.
That's the
Do the
rotation.
User joined your
opposite.
channel.
Does it have to be a runway?
Yeah, one of the
Yes.
dirt paths.
Oh,
You
dirt
can
paths.
you
Oh,
can land in
User
between
joined your
them.
channel.
Hey, Cadet, smile. You're on camera.
Oh,
Oh,
I
User
did
joined
not
your
do
channel.
well.
Yay, the leader.
Happens.
The leader fails the test.
I was looking at those.
oh, there go my flaps. Okay, we're doing this without them.
That's okay. You're just gonna have a higher stalling speed. That's fine. These dirt paths are pretty long, so you can afford to land a little fast.
So you can exit the game once you're down and stopped.
What?
Hold on.
Oh, it's because Johnson jumped out.
Oh,
there we go.
Everything is okay. Everything's okay. That's just a War Thunder mechanic.
oh yeah, bail out next to an enemy, they get the credit.
Yep.
I
Oh,
overflew
really?
him and I thought I'd clipped him for a
Yeah,
second
it's
there.
because Gaijin noticed like a pandemic of people bailing out in order to not get killed when they got outskilled. So they're like, you know what? Bail out next to people, they get the credit.
Use the
And
wrong
that's
term there.
Poor sports finally get what's
The word isn't people, it's scum.
yeah.
Oh, that's right. I tried to throttle up. Engine's not on. Let's remedy that quickly, please. I know
Also-
there's okay.
To answer the question about the naval aircraft past the Hellcat, I agree. Actually, the P-40 has this problem
Nice
as
job,
well,
50.
where
Hey, bud.
the torque will push your engine to the right instead of the left, forcing you to put in left rudder to keep it steady. It ends up being a function of airspeed. The engine actually pulls to the left. It's just that your airspeed to the point where it overtakes and recenters it towards the right.
So I'm gonna go have a quick cigarette. I'll be back, and we'll be starting. You're all welcome to stay for squad training, which we'll be discussing the flight. But I'll just be right back.
Smoke
Okay.
break. Smoke if you got him.
And if anyone stays after the squadron training and has any other questions about what we've gone over today or needs clarification or anything like that, please ask me or either Astro or Hobbs or Grizzly or Goodwin. Pretty much everyone here who's a first lieutenant. We all have a lot of experience flying, so we can dispense a lot of advice.